am Jennifer Eileen, and I am so delighted to welcome you to my cafe, my Pet Info Cafe. Pour yourself a warm cuppa and let's chat about our love of animals. We all need the love and warmth that animals bring into our lives, and they need us too. In our cafe, we share tips, success stories, information for humans and for our fur or feathered or finned family to have the happiest, most fulfilling lives together. Today, I am so happy to welcome Sean Brown, Associate Director of Philanthropy at Southeastern Guide Dogs. Sean is a U.S. Army veteran, graduate of the Service Dog Program with retired service dog Pella and his current service dog Nick, and a native to Northern Virginia. So Sean, welcome. It's so exciting to talk to you. So exciting. Thank you for joining us. I know you're not in Northern Virginia now, but that's you said your home is in Virginia. Tell us about where you're from, what your high school was.
Yes, first, thanks for having me. I grew up in Northern Virginia, Stafford County, graduate from the class of 2004 at Colonial Forge High School, proud Eagle, and hope that I'm representing Eagle Pride well.
Okay, and that is wonderful. And also, where did your interest in relationship with guide dogs begin?
So I am, as a military veteran, I was living with PTSD and lots of other mobility challenges. And my wife and I decided that a service dog would be the best fit for me. So I ended up making a search and finding Southeastern Guide Dogs. And it's been an incredible story ever since then. I connected with Southeastern Guide Dogs, got my first service dog, Pella. And shortly after that, I was offered a position at Southeastern Guide Dogs. And now I get to go around the country sharing the importance of our mission and the importance of awareness to help save veterans' lives.
That is just a beautiful story. So you did mention along the way that you have a radio background. Can you tell us about that? Do you have a show now?
So I don't have a show right now, but I used to have the Sean Brown Show on WQTS digital broadcast, and then I moved over to Weekends with Sean B on G100, the throwback station in Savannah, Georgia, and that kind of went hand in hand with my announcing duties with the Savannah State University Tigers for all the athletics programs and broadcasting for the Savannah Bananas.
Okay, what a great story. What a great background. Well, I'd like to talk somewhat about your dogs, and I understand your first dog was Pella. Can you tell us
Yes, my
about
first
Pella?
dog, Pella. She's a 7-year-old black lab. I just turned 7 in September, and she retired in July of 2021.
That's wonderful. Are there any great stories to tell about how things that you and Pella have done together?
Pella made it possible that I could go from having to have somebody with me everywhere I went to be able to go and do things on my own again. She made it possible that as an athletics fan, I could go out and go to sporting events. We've been to multiple Tampa Bay Rays games. We go to Buccaneers games. She made all that possible because I used to not be able to do those things, and that really changed my life.
That's so beautiful. And she's still with you.
Yes, when she retired, she became our pet, and she lives here at home in our house. She sleeps on my son's bed, and she lives the life of luxury as a retiree.
Good for her. Good for her. And Nick is your current guide dog? Tell us about
Yes,
Nick.
I received Nick in December of 2021, and within that first 3 weeks, he really started showing off that he was, some would say, a Pella 2.0, maybe 3.0. Doing some really incredible things, and he bonded with me very quickly. Within the first 3 weeks, I was, in a situation where I was trying to ease some pain, and he reacted without even having to be asked to. And it really showed myself and my family that he was going to be a perfect fit as a successor dog.
Oh, that's so sweet. That is so wonderful. And I know we do have some B-roll of that we're showing to share with everyone. And how do your dogs interact with the rest of your family? Tell us about that.
So both dogs are a part of our family. We wouldn't be the same unit that we are without them. Pella really helped keep my family together while I was dealing with and recovering from PTSD and learning to live with PTSD. Pella was kind of the glue that made it possible for us to move forward. And she is my daughter's best friend. My daughter's 6, going on 60, as I like to say, and she has really bonded with both dogs. She knows all the cues. She does a phenomenal job.
That's just beautiful. Well, talking about Southeastern guide dogs, there are all kinds of different guide dogs for, as for yourself veterans, for visually impaired, facility therapy dogs, support dogs, Gold Star family dogs. Can you just expand more on the different kinds of dogs and roles and how they're raised and how they're matched with people?
Awesome, yeah, definitely. So our dogs are genetically all of that's done on campus. Genetics, whelping, reproduction, birthing. That's all done on campus here in Palmetto, Florida. From there, our dogs go to a puppy raiser home where they spend about a year learning basic obedience and getting exposed to things that they may see as a working dog and a working career. Then they come back to campus at about a year to 18 months old, and they get to what we call college. They get to university and they get to select a major, select a career. Out of those careers, we've got guide dogs for people that are visually impaired, service dogs for veterans with disabilities and post-traumatic stress disorder. We have our Gold Star family program for the families of those that have lost a loved one in military service, as well as those who have lost a loved one that has lost the battle to suicide, that was serving active duty or is a veteran. We provide a special companion dogs for children with special needs. We're the only program in the entire country that has a program that makes it available, where a teenager who's visually impaired can come to our campus at the age of 15 and get a guide dog from us after experiencing a weekend on campus and figuring out, okay, is this the best thing for me? It really gives them a heads up on life and gets them moving forward with success. But there's so many options and careers for our dogs. It's really incredible.
That is really incredible. And so beautiful that the dogs can interact with children and teens at that early age.
It is.
And then, so how does someone, so if someone's visually impaired, for example, how do they find the right dog? How do you do the matchmaking?
So the matching system it's really, really incredible. Each dog is matched to each individual specifically. So as I like to say, if you were to take Nick or Pella and make them into a human, they would be clones of me. They're matched to the way that we walk, the pace of our walk. They're matched to the ideas and the energy that we have in our daily day-to-day activities. Do we live in a fast-paced lifestyle? Do we live in a slower-paced lifestyle? All of those things are important factors that weigh into the dog. Is the dog a dog that likes to get more attention, or is the dog that also likes to focus on its job and be focused on the individual? All of those things come into play, and each dog is individually handcrafted by our incredible instructors for all of our dogs and for all of our recipients. I'm sorry.
So someone comes to your facility and interacts with the dog, and then you make a match. Is that how it works?
So the beauty of it is once we apply for one of our dogs, there's a full application process. An instructor will come out to an applicant's home and bring a dog. And for the visually impaired side, they'll do what's called a Juno walk. Well, they get an opportunity to kind of see the pace of the person as they walk, how much pull they need out of a dog. Do they need a high drive dog or a low drive dog? The different things that they're going to need. And then the instructors are able to go back and go through all of our dogs and say, okay, I think this dog would be perfect for this individual. And it's the same thing with our service dogs and emotional support animals as well. It's really an incredible process.
That really is. So speaking of veterans and speaking of PTSD, I have read that dogs can smell a person's emotional state. Is that your experience?
It hasn't been proven yet what the exact thing is, but these dogs are so in tune with us because we put so much focus on bonding with our dogs when we first get our dogs, that our dogs are able to tell when just one little thing is off. I like to always share the story of my friend Morgan, who's also a graduate,
Yeah.
and his service dog Foley. Morgan has a severe TBI, which leads with him having severe migraines to the point that he ends up in a hospital. Foley, about 20 to 30 minutes before his migraines occur, will go get his bag of medication that's sealed, bring it to Morgan and say, Dad, you're about to have a really bad day. When he doesn't do that and he doesn't listen to Foley, he ends up in the hospital for days at a time. So it just shows that our dogs are able to sense a change.
Yes, that's incredible sensitivity. That's a really, really beautiful story. And then, so if somebody has a child that has a special need, how do you match the dogs with them?
So we have a special needs program for our children with special needs that is tailored specifically to find those specific things. They find the dog that's that's loving, that shows a little bit of extra attention, has great temperament. Those are all things that come into play, but it's really based off of what that child needs in that specific animal. So as they find that dog that has the need that meets the need of the individual, then they place them.
Hey, it's all very, very personal. So just to, in our recent meeting with Ellie, who was who raised a breeder for Southeastern guide dogs, she talked about how there was that her children played with the dogs, and that there was kind of a mutual assessment that was being made at that time. So I think everyone's curious about how do you raise the dogs within the organization, and how do you find them, and how do you find the breeders and the puppy raisers?
So our puppy raisers are all volunteers across the United States. Our breeding cooperative is shared amongst multiple schools that are within the same program. And then they will select dogs to keep our line strong. And sometimes we share lines with other dogs, but that's all done on our campus in Palmetto, Florida. Our puppy raisers are volunteers. They come pick up the dog. They bring the dog back at about 12 to 18 months. And it's a really, really cool process. Our breeders are, they're the lifeline of what creates the next generation of superheroes. But it's a very special process.
Yeah, it's very special. And so, of the dogs that you've known, and the dogs, do you have any other special stories, like your story about the migraine, that people would like to hear?
One of the things that we always like to talk about is the fact that we've seen so much success across the board, and consistent success in the same areas with all of our dogs. Success to the point that, these days we all know the 22 a day number for veterans a day losing the battle to suicide. We found out recently that that number was actually 44, but at Southeastern Guide Dogs, that number is 0. We haven't lost a single veteran that has received one of our service dogs. And that rings true. That's so important to know, because we receive all of our dogs as gifts. So without having to pay a single penny towards our own assistance, we get it for free as a gift, and it's saving lives.
Yes, indeed it is. Well, I'm curious about the history of Southeastern Guide Dogs. How did it start?
So we were founded in 1982 with 3 dogs, a station wagon, and a small farmhouse down here in sunny Palmetto, Florida, which surprisingly has cows. It's an incredible story. We've grown to a 33-acre campus off the back of complete donations. We're complete grassroots. We get no government funding, so we are a completely self-sustaining from the ground up organization based off of the courteous and the generosity of individual donors and organizations.
That's great. So you grew from a pickup truck or station wagon and three people. And so tell me more about the history and how things grew.
It's been really exciting to see. I've been on staff for about 3.5 years now. And just since I've been involved with the Southeastern Guide Dogs family, which started in 2018 for me, I've seen such growth. Almost all of our buildings, all of our buildings are hurricane rated. We just had Hurricane Ian come through. We only sustained a few $1,000s worth of damage because all of our buildings are hurricane rated. We don't break ground unless it's paid for, so we don't owe anything. But all of our buildings on campus, except for I think 2, have been built within the last 6 to 8 years. And it's really shown the progress and the success within the story. Our very first veteran that receives one of our dogs for our service dog program, his name is Michael Jernigan, who also lives in the Northern Virginia area.
Oh.
He was the very first wounded and visually impaired service member during the post 9/11 conflict with Iraq and Afghanistan. And he received the very first service dog from us that combined as a guide dog as well.
I see. So I have a breed question, just a curious question. Are all guide dogs Labradors?
So we breed specifically Labrador retrievers. We found the most success with Labrador retrievers, and our genetics team has been able to breed out hip dysplasia down to 3%. Our
Hmm.
neonatal loss for Labradors is less than 1%. So we're able to find a lot of success with Labrador retrievers. We used to do golden retrievers and a mix of the two called a Goldador, but we just found more success with Labradors, and we do all of that on campus right here in Palmetto.
Okay, that's great. So can you just tell us more about what makes a Labrador Retriever so special and such a great guide dog?
Well, we use all positive reinforcement for our training purposes. And as we all know, Labradors will eat pocket lint if you let them have it. But they love to eat, and positive reinforcement is really ensuring that the dog is being treated and they enjoy working. And when they enjoy their job, they're going to do whatever you ask them to do. It just makes it a lot easier. We continue that treat with positive reinforcement throughout the working life of the dog until they retire at about the age of 10.
Oh,
And we found success. Labs have been our most successful. We found medical issues here and there in the past with other breeds, and we just found that labs were the most successful.
that's brilliant. So I have a question. I was looking at one point for a mobility dog for my father. Would you recommend a Labrador for someone with mobility needs?
Well, I'm not an instructor. I'm just a graduate and a
Yeah.
part of the philanthropy department. But I would recommend he go to the Assistance Dogs International website and see what he could find that would best assist him in finding the assistance that he needs.
Okay, that sounds like a great idea. Um, so, just more about you and your interest in dogs. Had you grown up with dogs?
Yes, I actually grew up. My mom has had Yorkshire Terriers my entire life. She has now she has a little teacup named Mr. Bond. That's a Yorkie. But my mom's also a Army veteran. So is my dad. But they have always been a part of our lives. I've always had dogs, and it's been the best fit for me.
Okay, that sounds great. And can you say more about your family and your children and how they interact with your dogs?
Yeah, both of my kids, my son is 15, and he really, really connects with Pella. Like I said, Pella sleeps in his room, so they have a bond. It's that teenager bond with the dog as they grow up. Yeah, I guess it gives him somebody to talk to, but they're a part of the family. Our family dynamic isn't the same without both dogs here in the house. We even have art around the house that has everybody's names on it, including Nick and Pella.
Okay,
It's
great.
just they're a part of our family. They're like one of the kids.
That's great. Yeah, I get that. So about Southeastern guide dogs, um, I read that you were accredited by the International Guide Dog Federation and the Assistance Dogs International. Can you say more about those two organizations, what they do, and how they influence?
So the International Guide Dogs Federation, they are the accrediting source for all guide dog schools around the world. They set the standards, and every organization that is a part of that umbrella has to meet those standards with all of their guide dogs. Our guide dogs learn over 40 commands. Our service dogs under the Assistance Dogs International program are required to meet over 20 commands, 20 tasks that they have to be able to complete
Oh,
for their handler.
hmm.
Not all companies are a part of that program, but it is the standard even for service dogs. The VA requires a dog that's coming into the VA or that's going to be part of the VA's Trupanion program to be a dog that's trained from Assistance Dogs International School, and we are one of those schools.
Okay, that's really good to know. Um, so within facilities, I've seen and I've read about facility dogs. Can you tell us more about what a facility dog does, what a facility dog is?
Yes, we have facility therapy dogs in VA facilities and government facilities all across the country. We serve the entire continental United States, so our goal is to get dogs in every VA facility that we can. But I've had the pleasure of actually home sitting for one of our facility therapy dogs before they went and got placed for about 6 months. And these dogs do incredible things. When you're at the hospital, it's never a positive time. But for veterans, when you're at the VA, it's always an elevated time, and these dogs can help make that a better day. Sometimes you're coming out of surgery, or you've been in there a few days, and you just need a pick me up. And these dogs come in and they put a smile on the veterans' faces.
Hmm.
I hear stories all the time how they've met some of our dogs in the hospital, and it just really brightened that moment, made them feel better just in that moment right there. It's really cool to hear.
That is really cool. So a facility therapy dog will actually go into a facility, and then how is it determined that they go to see certain patients? How is that determined?
So that's completely up to the handler. The
Okay.
dogs are placed with an individual handler that has control of that choice. They're taught what the dog is going to be able to do. They're taught the tasks that the dog can do, and then from there, they are the medical experts. So they have to make that decision.
Okay. Do all VA facilities have therapy dogs?
No, unfortunately not. It's a slow moving process, but the goal is to get as much help for our veterans out there as possible.
Yes, and yeah, absolutely it is. Are there facility therapy dogs in non-veteran hospitals?
Yes, we do have, especially down in this area, we have actually a COVID sniffing dog that's doing double duty down in Doctor's Hospital in Sarasota, Florida. So we do have a few dogs here and there that are in other facilities. We're rolling out facility therapy dogs for a few other special programs here in the near future. So we're branching out. Where our goal is to get as much help as possible, get these dogs into a career because that's what they want to be doing. So if that's the career for them, we're going to find somewhere for them to be.
Definitely, the dog loves having a purpose. Can you say more about the COVID sniffing dogs? I've seen some of this on the news, and I'm sure people are curious about what they do and how they're trained to do it.
Sure. Yeah, we had during the COVID era, I guess you could say,
Yeah.
we had a dog that was trained to be able to specifically smell out the COVID scent within someone's shoes. They could smell someone's shoes and tell whether they need to go get tested or not. And the dog would go through the line, and they would smell. And then when they smelled the person that had the scent on them, they would just lay down, and that would trigger the handler to know, okay, we need to ask this person to step aside and get tested. And it really helped in a lot of situations. It was very successful.
So in what situation, like in a clinic situation, would you use something like that?
So this dog specifically was placed at Doctor's Hospital in Sarasota.
Mm.
I've never actually been to Doctor's Hospital
Oh, good.
because I use the VA facilities, but I do know that the dog has done very, very well at Doctor's Hospital and the methods that they used.
That is just, that's fascinating. I'm sure people are very curious about that. Well, in a few more minutes that we have together, are there any other special stories that you would like to tell about Nick or Pella and your relationship with them?
Pella made it possible for me to do, like I said, a lot of things
Yeah.
I never dreamed that I would be able to do it again, including going to Wrestlemania. We went to Wrestlemania right before she retired, and
Oh,
to be able to be in that environment, a lot of veterans don't get the opportunity when they have the dream to be able to go to large events and be okay. They don't get to go to do and experience things because they don't have that assistance that they need. So of an environment that's going to have 50 to 60,000 people, fireworks, pyro, all those different things, they miss out on those opportunities, and these are life-changing events. I know for me, when I was able to attend my very first large-scale event with Pella, I really had that moment where I sat down, and she made it possible. But I sat down, and it just kind of hit me that I can do this now. This is awesome. This is game changing, and we've been full speed ahead ever since. And even with Nick's been a trooper. The story I love to share with Nick, and I'll be quick, I promise. Nick and I traveled to Ohio this past July, this past June, and we had a layover in Charlotte. And we got stuck in Charlotte with mechanical issues for over 8 hours. We left the Tampa area at 8 a.m. We didn't arrive in Ohio until after 10 p.m. Nick was by my side, rock solid, the entire time. Refused to go to the bathroom, refused to take a break. He was rock solid the entire time. And that's it's just a testament to how incredible these dogs are and the great work that our instructors do.
Absolutely. Thank you for sharing that. Those are the kind of beautiful personal things that make such a difference. And it's so beautiful to know the relationship between that you've had personally and the great work that you're doing through Southeastern Guide Dogs to help the world at large and all the people who benefit from guide dogs. And Labradors are just so compelling. I've been looking at Labrador pictures all week, and I haven't had a dry eye all week, looking at that and enjoying that. So I want to thank you very, very much for the time that you spent with us, Sean, and for all the good work that you're doing.
My pleasure. Thanks for having us.
Okay. For more information about the show, you may visit my website, petinfocafe.com.